There is a pain within you that has no name. It does not speak in words, nor does it announce itself in moments of clarity. It lingers, silent, persistent, like a fog over your spirit. Perhaps you have tried to explain it. Perhaps you've called it anxiety, depression, or a vague sense of disconnection. But no diagnosis seems to hold it entirely. It is not bound by the confines of this lifetime. This pain may not be yours alone. It may be the echo of something much older, a wound etched into your soul, carried from a moment long before your first breath in this body. Weiss, psychiatrist and pioneer of past life regression, revealed something many refuse to see, that time is not linear and that our traumas do not begin at birth. In his journey through thousands of patient regressions, he uncovered lives long forgotten and wounds that echoed across centuries, wounds that continued to shape the present. Have you ever met someone for the first time, yet felt as though you've known them forever? Have you been drawn to certain places, symbols, or time periods with no clear explanation? Do you carry fears or limitations that seem to come from nowhere? These are not coincidences. These are traces, fragments, whispered messages from lives your conscious mind does not remember, but your soul never forgot. Your soul is not young. It has seen many suns rise and fall. It has loved, lost, fought, and fled across the canvas of time. And in each incarnation, it has collected not only memories but imprints, emotional residues that do not simply vanish when a lifetime ends. Sometimes these residues are subtle, an unexplainable phobia, a repetitive dream, a deep affinity. Other times, they are wounds, lingering grief, chronic pain, self-sabotage. And no matter how much you meditate, journal, or try to fix yourself in the present, the source remains hidden, because it was never here to begin with. When Weiss encountered a patient who, under hypnosis, spoke fluent languages she'd never studied, described historical details with uncanny accuracy, and found healing only after reliving a trauma from a forgotten life, he knew something profound had been uncovered. And from that moment on, he listened, not with skepticism but with soul. He allowed his patients to journey backward, not just to childhood, but beyond, to lives that shaped the pain they still carried, and in doing so, he opened a gateway that science could not explain, but the heart deeply recognized. This pain you carry, what if it's not a punishment but a message? What if it is the soul's way of pointing you toward completion, toward integration? What if you're not broken, just unfinished? The body may die, but consciousness is not bound to flesh. It is the thread that continues, weaving in and out of time, seeking learning, wholeness, balance. And when something is left unresolved, when a lesson remains incomplete, it waits for you. Not to haunt you, but to guide you. Your anxiety, your fatigue, your chronic sorrow may not be flaws to correct, but doors to open. And when you listen, deeply, patiently, without judgment, those doors begin to reveal stories that your present self is ready to finally hear. You don't need to remember everything to begin healing. You only need to listen with the part of you that already knows. This is where the journey begins. A journey not into the future, but into the hidden past, where healing waits like a memory. If these words touched your soul, subscribe to the channel. Not all memories announce themselves with clarity. Most arrive as whispers, intuitive nudges, subtle discomforts, flashes of insight that fade as quickly as they come. And yet these faint echoes are often the gateways to the most profound truths of the soul. We are conditioned to look at life through the narrow lens of chronology. From birth to death, a single thread, unbroken and unchallenged. But what if the thread is part of a vast tapestry? And what if what you feel right now, the sorrow in your chest, the ache in your bones, the restlessness in your heart, is not confined to your current narrative? Past life wounds leave fingerprints. They are rarely loud, but they are precise. They show up in the way you react to certain people without reason, in your inexplicable dread of deep water, or fire, or enclosed spaces. They appear in the relationships you magnetize, the ones that feel impossibly intense, familiar, or karmically entangled. And they especially emerge in the patterns you cannot seem to break, no matter how much effort you invest. These patterns are not flaws. They are echoes of unhealed moments, repeating until they are brought to light. Doctor. Brian Weiss discovered that when patients relived a key moment from a past life, a trauma, a betrayal, a death, a moment of loss, and simply witnessed it, healing would begin in the present. Emotional burdens lifted, physical symptoms vanished. The psyche released what it had carried unknowingly for decades, sometimes centuries, not because the memory was erased, but because it was finally seen. Recognition is a sacred act. The soul longs not to forget but to complete its cycles, and you are not here by accident. This moment, this body, this life, were chosen for a reason. You came here to resolve, to grow, to liberate yourself from threads that no longer serve your journey. You don't need to believe in reincarnation for this to matter. You only need to trust that your inner world is wiser than it seems, that your suffering has context, and that you have the power to access it. There are portals all around you. Dreams are one of them. Have you ever dreamed of places you've never seen, yet felt deeply at home within them? Have you awakened with tears or a sense of having lost something, someone, though your waking life offers no explanation? These are not tricks of the subconscious. They are memories, filtered through symbols. Your soul speaks in metaphor, and if you begin to treat your inner world with reverence, as if it were a sacred text, you will find keys. Some may arrive through meditation, others through music, art, deep silence, or the presence of someone whose eyes feel like déjà vu. This is the beginning of soul retrieval, not as a mystical ritual, but as an act of listening. To reclaim the fragments of yourself, you must first soften your grip on who you think you are. The ego resists this. It prefers the safety of what is known, even when it hurts. But the soul is not concerned with safety. It is concerned with wholeness, with truth, with transcendence. To follow the pain back to its origin requires courage, but it also requires tenderness, a willingness to hold yourself gently as you remember. You are not here to relive the trauma. You are here to free yourself from its grip. And every thread of pain, when followed inward, leads not to suffering, but to awakening. There is a place beyond thought where memory breathes. Not the memory of this life, not the kind you can summon with photographs or familiar voices, but a deeper memory. One that lives in your body, your energy, your subtle knowing. To access it, you must surrender the need to figure it out, and instead enter the state of remembering without mind. This is what Brian Weiss offered his patients, the space to remember without logic. Through hypnotic regression, he guided them into a space between sleep and wakefulness, the liminal field where the subconscious relaxes and the soul begins to speak. In this soft and sacred state, the veil between lives grows thin, emotions intensify. Images appear, and suddenly a person grieving for reasons they could not explain begins to see the battlefield, the lost child, the forbidden love, the betrayal, the death, the life, not imagined, remembered. Regression is not about entertainment. It is not about uncovering glamorous past identities or escaping the present. It is an act of healing, an act of reclaiming. Because until the root is seen, the symptoms continue to speak in distress. Some see visions, others feel sensations, coldness, pressure, light. Some begin to weep without knowing why. These are not signs of instability. They are evidence of contact. The body remembers what the conscious mind forgets. Your trauma is not stored in your intellect. It is stored in the nervous system, in the breath, in the way you flinch from intimacy or brace yourself for abandonment. And when you descend into these forgotten chambers of the soul, the body begins to release what it has held far too long. There is beauty in this. There is dignity in choosing to remember. Because every remembered life adds to the wholeness of the current one. And every unspoken truth that finally finds voice becomes lightness in your present heart. You may not need formal hypnosis to cross this threshold. Sometimes deep meditation opens the same door. Sometimes it is music, a haunting melody that brings tears for no reason. Sometimes it is the face of a stranger that feels like home. These are spontaneous regressions, sacred accidents that offer glimpses of your eternal journey. But the key is trust. The mind will want proof. It will question what arises. It will doubt. That is its nature. But the soul speaks a different language, one of resonance, emotion, vibration. When you feel something ancient stir within you, that is not fantasy. That is truth arriving without permission. And when that truth is allowed to move, when you let yourself cry, grieve, tremble, release, the pain dissolves, not because the past is undone, but because it is no longer hidden. Weiss reminded us that we are more than flesh and thought. We are travelers of time, returning again and again not to suffer, but to evolve, to love better, to choose differently, to balance the energies we once distorted. And each time we heal something from a former life, we free not only ourselves, but those connected to us through karmic threads. You may be holding pain that did not begin with you, but you are the one chosen to transform it. And in that you are not cursed, you are sacred, a vessel of transmutation, a witness to your own eternity. So breathe deeply, feel into the echoes, let them rise, and when they do, welcome them home. Healing is not about erasing the past. It is about integrating what was once fragmented, bringing light to what was left in shadow. And when the pain from a forgotten life resurfaces in this one, it is not to punish, it is to awaken. The wound is not the end of your story. It is the doorway through which your transformation begins. We often imagine that healing will feel peaceful, that once we begin the process, everything will soften. But the truth is more complex. Healing, especially from karmic wounds, often begins with disorientation. Your identity loosens, the emotions intensify. You feel raw, exposed, uncertain. This is the alchemy, the turning of ancient pain into present liberation. Weiss saw this again and again, that when a patient remembered a past death or betrayal or moment of unbearable grief, they often cried as if it had just happened, because on a soul level it had never truly ended. That moment had remained frozen in their field, looping silently, until they had the strength to feel it again and set it free. This is the sacred art of completion. You are not here to carry pain forever. You are here to transmute it, to sit with it, to breathe into it, to offer it your full presence, and then to release it back into the vastness from which it came. But transmutation requires more than insight. It requires compassion. The self that suffered, in this life or another, needs not your judgment, but your embrace. That version of you, terrified, betrayed, silenced, abandoned, is still within you. Not as pathology, but as a part of your wholeness waiting to return. When you welcome that part with tenderness, you restore the broken circuit. The shame dissolves, the fear relaxes, and something sacred returns to you. You become more complete. The karmic wound is not random, it is connected to your purpose. Often, the very place where we have suffered the most is the place we are called to serve. The healer was once the wounded one. The teacher was once silenced. The guide once wandered in darkness. These roles are not coincidences, they are restorations. Through your healing, you remember who you truly are beneath the pain. Your soul chose this life with precision, not as a punishment, but as a balancing. You chose your family, your body, your environment, even your challenges, not with the mind, but with the wisdom of your eternal self. And within each difficulty lies a hidden key. A karmic knot waiting to be untied. This is not about blame, it is about empowerment. To realize that even the unexplainable pain carries purpose, that even your suffering has intelligence. Energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transformed. And when you bring loving awareness to the stuck places within you, when you stop running from them, you activate that transformation. You become the alchemist, the priestess, the inner healer. No external validation is needed. No ritual or doctrine or belief system. Just presence, just trust, just the quiet willingness to feel what arises and respond with love. The soul does not speak in linear sentences. It speaks through vibration, through synchronicity, through sensations that bypass the intellect. And when you begin to live in tune with that language, you awaken a deeper form of knowing, one that recognizes your triggers not as enemies, but as messengers. You are not broken, you are remembering, and every moment of presence is a thread in the weaving of your return. There comes a moment subtle and sacred when the soul begins to quiet. Not because the pain has vanished, but because something within has shifted. You are no longer running from what hurt you. You are facing it, holding it, listening. And in that listening, a miracle unfolds. The wound loses its sharpness. The story loses its weight. What once felt like a burden now reveals itself as a teacher. This is the return. Not to who you were before the pain, but to who you've always been beneath it. The healing of past life wounds is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering your essence, the part of you untouched by time, unharmed by violence, unbroken by loss. That essence has been here through every incarnation, watching, waiting, witnessing. It is the thread of truth that weaves through all your lives, calling you home through every sorrow. Weiss often spoke of this essence as the eternal soul, pure, luminous, infinite. And as his patients journeyed back through lives of suffering, joy, and transformation, they often encountered this light, sometimes as a guide, sometimes as a presence within themselves, always as love. Unconditional, expansive, unshakable. You may not remember all your past lives, you may never know the full story behind your pain, but what matters most is not the memory, it is the healing. To forgive without needing to understand, to let go without having all the answers, to trust that your soul knows more than your mind ever could. When you surrender to that truth, something ancient within you exhales. The cycles begin to complete themselves, patterns begin to soften, relationships realign, and you start to see not with fear, but with compassion, for yourself and for others. Perhaps the person who betrayed you in this life was once someone you hurt in another. Perhaps the fear you carry is not weakness, but a remnant of bravery that cost you everything once before. Perhaps your deepest challenge is, in truth, your greatest initiation. This is how karma teaches, not to punish, but to balance, not to wound, but to awaken. And when you embrace this path, when you see your life not as an isolated event, but as a sacred continuation, you begin to walk differently, slower, with reverence, with awe. You listen more. You resist less. You trust the unfolding. You begin to live as soul. You recognize that healing doesn't mean everything feels perfect. It means you are no longer fragmented. You are whole. You are integrated. You no longer abandon the parts of yourself that once felt too painful to face. You bring them in. You sit with them. You offer them your warmth. And in that simple, quiet act, you become your own sanctuary. This is the liberation Weiss spoke of, the kind that arises not from forgetting the past, but from embracing it fully, from honoring every version of yourself that brought you here, from recognizing that even in pain you are always sacred, always evolving, always loved. You are not your wounds. You are the wisdom that rises from them. Now, breathe. Feel the stillness. Let the past rest. You are here now, and that is enough. If these words touched your soul, subscribe to the channel and click on the video that just appeared on your screen. It was chosen especially for you. I know you'll love it.